Real estate rock stars. I am Christina Leavenworth, and the interview we have today is so different. I absolutely love it. We're talking to Ashley Harwood, and she is an introverted real estate agent. And she got sick and tired of all the rah, talk to more people, do more open houses, cold calling. So she said, I'm going to figure out how to do this real estate thing as an introvert, and actually created a whole coaching program around it and has great tips and insights for people that are more introverted but wanting to excel in the real estate space. All right, we are joined with Ashley Harwood out of Boston, a true rock star. So I'm so excited to just get going on this. So, Ashley, why don't we just start with how you got into real estate? Tell us your real estate journey.
Absolutely. So I got into real estate in 2013. I serve the Boston area. I did not grow up here though, so I had to build a sphere from scratch and learn what worked for me. Turns out what worked for me was not necessarily what I was being taught to do, the cold calls, that sort of thing back then. And I found a way to make it work, build a sphere, make friends, but I'm an introvert. So it took me a long time to figure out what was actually going to work. So now what I'm doing is helping other introverts in the business. That's my jam.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get into that. But let's go back to you going into real estate. For a lot of people, if you're an introvert and then people tell you you need to knock on doors and cold call, you want to run as far away from that as possible. So why do you get into real estate to begin with?
Well, I got into real estate because I loved the idea of working with homes. I love the concept of pricing and marketing and all of that. I found just fascinating. Ever since I was a child, I was a very weird child. I thought it was interesting. I'd look at the house listings in the newspaper. So that's what got me into it. I didn't realize how much outreach and prospecting there was, which is, similar story to most agents. We think it's just easy and fun and you get to look at houses and sell them. And no, it's mostly making connections and talking to people. So once I was in it, though, I was in it. I was committed.
Yeah. So what does your real estate business look like today?
So it looks like a lot of Sphere because I have had time to build it and networking, doing events. I do a little bit of social media. And I recently started a few months ago, I started mailing to old expireds. So that's a
Oh,
very introvert friendly way because then it's it's a little bit easier to do that outbound reach and then people who are actually interested can call.
awesome. Do you have a team? Or are you a solo agent?
I'm a solo agent. I was on a team for a little while, for about a year, and I've spent time as a full-time productivity coach, so I've worn a lot of hats, and right now I'm just nice and clean and easy back to being a solo agent.
Awesome. So you get into this, everyone's telling you to cold call, door knock. Talk about maybe how that journey and then how you found ways that work for you.
Yeah, so I was doing all the things. I was cold calling in the morning and in the evenings, and sometimes a lunch here and there, I was going to networking events. And what I found, without meaning to, I was really A B testing these two lead gen strategies at the same time. What I found was the cold calling for me was not resulting in any closings or any clients, and the networking was. So after a while, I made the difficult, guilt-ridden shift to let go of the cold calling and go all in on the networking and the other pieces.
So as an introvert, sometimes I feel like a networking event might be your nightmare. How did you make it work for you?
So, for a lot of us, it's actually the event itself isn't super intimidating. Sometimes it is, but in general, it's more just managing that energy, right? So, I had to learn
Mhm.
how to go into an event with enough energy that by the end of it, I wasn't completely drained.
Yeah, no, that's true. Did you what types of events were you going to?
A lot of Chamber of Commerce, a lot of women's and networking events. I did get myself a seat in a BNI, so that was a first thing in the morning. event. Those were a little intimidating though, because we had a big chapter and standing up in front of 50 people every week was a little scary.
So, did you try to just make a one-on-one connection when you were there? Like, did you have a certain goal saying, "Okay, I'm gonna go to this and, this is what's gonna the outcome going to be." Talk about that.
Yeah. For me, it was all about managing my own energy. So I would give myself a goal, not of how many people I'd talk to, but of how long I would stay.
Okay.
So if I knew that I was already kind of drained for the day, I'd already had a lot of meetings or whatever, I would say, all right, I'm going to go to this event. I already paid for it. I know it'll be good, but I'm going to give myself permission to leave after an hour if I want to.
Oh,
And so that way I gave myself an out, so it took the pressure off. It's just mental gymnastics that I was doing with
yeah.
myself. And I knew that I would see some familiar faces and I would try to meet a couple new people and just see who I clicked with. The goal was never to meet every person in the room.
And I think that's a good thing saying that hour because if you're there for an hour, you're going to talk to somebody. You're not going to just sit in a corner and scroll on your phone.
Yeah.
So at some point, you'll talk to someone. Did you ask for business or like how did that transpire? Because a lot of these things, like there's a bunch of insurance agents in the room, a bunch of realtors. How did you take it from just being like an acquaintance to people trusting you with their biggest asset?
Hmm. It was all relationship building. So I see networking events as kind of a pool to pull from. And then I would connect with the people I naturally gravitated towards for whatever reason. We have a commonality or we just vibe. And then I'd follow up and have a one on one conversation with them or even meet for coffee or lunch, build the relationship slowly over time. I was never asking for business the first time I met someone. That would be if I were on the receiving end of that, or I should say, when I've been on the receiving end of that, huge turnoff. I never want to talk to that person again.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yeah.
How long did it take for it to really start clicking and working for you?
Couple years. I would say about 2 to 3 years before I started feeling that progress and that traction and not only receiving referrals that were closing, but also having this whole network of people who every time I saw them, they'd say, "Hey, how's the market? How are you doing? I'm keeping my eyes out for you for anyone looking to move." So I call that a win as well.
That's awesome. And you also like help coach introverts and tell me a little bit about how you're helping other people with this. When every other outlet out there is saying, just talk to a million people, more energy, go, go, go. And you're like, yeah. So how are you like what do you tell them to do?
Yeah, I love the way that you frame that because it's so true. That is the vibe in the training and coaching world out there. And yes, it is a people business, and there are ways to manage energy and find lead gen strategies that are more aligned. So, the most tactical thing that I can say to a very broad audience here is to start with where you're already interacting with people in your personal life. If you have kids, the other parents, social groups, neighbors, whatever. Where are you already talking to people, and what opportunities are there to be a little more purposeful in your conversations around real estate? And that way, you're not adding in more things, you're just turning what you're already doing into something that could lead to business. So, after a few years building up a pretty successful business, after some time, my business coach asked me what was next. And I had always enjoyed being a mentor and teaching classes in my office. And I realized there was a huge need for other introverted agents to have someone to talk to and have someone to guide them who's been there before. So, it's a little bit of coaching, it's a Facebook group, and I just wrote my first book.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And then you have recently started mailing out some expired letters, right? Tell me about that and your success with it so far.
Yeah, so that it's really new. So I don't have a ton of data. I have one closed piece of business from that so far. And it's yeah, it's a simple one-page letter saying, I know your house was previously listed. It's not anymore. You probably have no interest in selling, but if you do, give me a call. Here's who I am. Here's how I can help.
Is it automated or are you looking at the expireds and like kind of hand selecting who you mail these to?
But whenever I run, that was one of the podcasts I would listen to on my rotation. And so that's how I really got started with real estate rock stars and was interested in the mastermind. Dang, I've got so much value out of the podcast that I obviously wanted to be there, and I've gone every year since.
Hey, you're going to come out here and we're going to teach you about some lead gen. And we do plenty of that stuff. But what really happens is people leave with their lives changed. Listeners, if you are thinking about coming out, find me on Instagram. I've got links and stuff on there. You can DM me for info. It's at Aaron Amuchastegui. Or you can go to our website, realestaterockstarsmastermind.com. We've got two options for ticket. This week is $900 for a single ticket. Or you can do a payment plan where you do like 4 payments of $250. So you can lock in a ticket. So guys, if you're out there, you think, man, I wish I would have gone to that. That's something that I need next year. I know it's hard to buy something like 10 months ahead of time. Be like, why would I do that? Why can I think so far ahead? But hopefully you can be a little inspired. Do it this way.
Is it automated, or are you looking at the expireds and like kind of hand selecting who you mail these to?
I'm hand selecting it. It's a little bit labor intensive.
Okay. And then you just, you put it in the mail and you got one listing from it?
One listing closed so far, so
Nice. That's
hopefully
amazing.
that keeps going.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what I liked is how you were saying it took a couple years. And I think everyone's wanting the quick fix. They're wanting to just have, going back to your business today, roughly how many homes do you sell? Like, what's your volume? All that fun stuff.
Last year, I was part of a team. We did about 13 million in volume. And before that, I was a full-time coach. So I had stepped out of production for a few years. But it does take time. I mean, the only way that I see agents really hit it out of the park in their first year is they have a family member who is a builder and gives them a neighborhood, or they are one of the very small handful of people who are actually going to make calls every single day for a year and be super consistent, which for most people it does work and it's a nice theory, but it's just not super realistic.
Yeah. When you were doing these networking events, would you then shift it like, hey, can you meet for coffee next week, or can you meet for lunch whenever you found someone you connected with?
Yep, absolutely. And then they would go in the database, they'd go on a touch plan so we wouldn't lose track of each other.
Okay, awesome. I always tell like agents I talk to as well. I'm like, if you ask someone how they're doing, most nice, normal people will ask you how you're doing as well. And then it's an easy opportunity to talk about, oh, yeah, actually, I'm in real estate. I had a crazy week, or I had this, or whatnot. Have you seen a lot of like introverted agents like be on the cusp of leaving, and then after like talking to you, stay in real estate?
I've seen some, yeah. A lot are struggling with burnout, and a lot of agents don't realize that they're introverts.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I realize when I teach classes and I speak. There's always a handful of people who are like, I had absolutely no idea, and that's why I'm tired all the time.
Yeah, I read an analogy once where if you're an extrovert, you start with like 0 pennies. And every time you interact with someone, you get another penny. And an introvert starts with like 20 pennies. And every time they interact, they're giving a penny away.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they get really drained. How do you determine if someone's an introvert typically?
I don't. I tell them something similar to that analogy and they determine it. I also have a quiz that I give people, but it's really self-assessment, and most people are somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a lot of like extroverted introverts
Yeah.
where they can fake it, but then they're like, give me my alone time. I need a little bit of alone time here. So how's your market? What's working there?
I mean, it's a very strong seller's market still. In Massachusetts, we don't have enough inventory. We're running out of land. So it's good for the sellers. It's kind of still tough for our buyers, though.
With your people, when you would start getting deals, it sounds like you're probably not the type that's like, hey, your referrals are my lifeline. Did you ever do any of that, or it was just good work and good service and they shared your name?
It was a little of both. I did get sucked into some of the cheesier things, like I did the bag of popcorn that's like, "Oh, I'm just popping by."
Yeah.
And, you can't get totally away from the corny stuff because people think it's funny and it's memorable.
Yeah. Well, and also as an introvert, if you're not knocking on their door, you're literally just dropping it off. That's a good way to, also, yeah, have your touch points without having to drain your energy.
Yeah. And I mean, now with social media, if I had started my business now and knew what I know about YouTube and relo buyers, there's so many different ways to get your name and face out there faster
Yeah.
that I probably would have chosen some different tactics.
Yeah. What would you have done differently?
I probably would have started a YouTube channel and just copied Ken Posick and some of these other people who are just crushing it with YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great strategy for sure. And I know we've done some podcasts on that before, so you guys can always go back and listen to them. So what are you currently coaching now, or so what does that look like if somebody wanted to reach out to you?
Yeah, so I have a group coaching program that's a pretty low price point, pretty entry level. And then I do one on one business planning and 3 month intensives. So I don't have anything that's like, hey, I'm going to talk to you every week one on one for forever. I never loved that style when I was being coached. So I have more package options, but definitely the best bang for your buck right now is buying my book because that's all of my knowledge and my classes in one spot.
Yeah, tell me about your book.
Yeah, it is called Move Over Extroverts: How
Okay.
to Build a Successful Real Estate Career as an Introvert. It's been in my brain for about 6 years, and last year I finally decided to just do it, and it's done. It's published. A few days ago, I started the first week of virtual book club that I'm running. So we're
Cool.
going to go through one chapter a week and ask questions and just discuss. So it's a little weird me hosting it and also being the author, but whatever.
No, that's awesome. And in it, are you just kind of talking about your journey and what worked for you?
No, there's a tiny bit of that, but it's a lot more hands-on, tactical section on energy management. We talk about time management, how to translate that to your calendar, a whole section on different lead gen strategies, and then a section on how to actually do the contract to close and all of the real estate activities while preserving your energy and being an introvert. Because, like, showings and open houses are energy drains.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When you have to be on.
Mhm.
So for all those crazy extroverts out there that don't understand this, and we're like crackheads running around, explain what it feels like after you would do an open house. Are you just like, I literally can't talk to another person? What's that feeling?
Mhm. It depends how busy it was and if it was just 1 or 2 back to back. But in general, it is this sense of I just feel drained. It's a little bit of tired. It's a little bit of I don't want to talk to anyone for a good hour or so.
Mm,
And that has to be managed. So one of the examples that I like to give is if you're going on a listing appointment and you're an introvert, don't schedule your listing appointment right after an open house
yeah, yeah,
because you're not going to be your best.
yeah. That's a great point, and it's, again, I think good for even, like, team leaders to know, and just as an agent understanding that, because if you have a more introverted client, you might be like, "Okay, yeah, let's do 10 homes, and then we'll do this, and we'll do lunch," and they're gonna be like, "Get away from me, you crazy person," and
Yeah,
need a breather, and knowing that, and I think your book could be good for anyone, just to learn how other people operate and all that. So if you are the extrovert, you should still read this.
absolutely. Or at least read the foreword. It was written by my boyfriend, my partner, who is an extrovert, and he wrote it from his perspective.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, no, I've really enjoyed this. This has been super interesting because I think there's just not many resources out there other than like you do the open house and then you go and you knock on 10 doors and then you go to a listing appointment and then you call all your buyers versus being like, hey, there's a smarter way to do this that's suited to your personality.
Right. And the challenge about that is it's different for everyone. So it's hard for me to prescribe in mass what's going to work for people. Um,
Yeah.
but that's why we have the resources. Oh, there's also a free Facebook group that people can join and ask questions.
Oh, nice. What's the name of the
Yeah.
Facebook group?
It's called Introverts in Real Estate.
Okay, awesome. And what is an easy way people can find you?
Come join the Facebook group or find me on my website, moveoverextroverts.com. or just look me up on social. I'm pretty easy to find.
Awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Check out my boyfriend's book too. His book is The Art of War for Real Estate.
Oh, cool. Nice. Awesome. Very, very cool. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. This was super fun, super insightful. And I think that this is going to help a lot of people. And as always, I'm Christina Leavenworth. You can find me on Instagram. This is Christina Leavenworth. We love to connect with you. I'm out of Pensacola. And thank you guys. And we'll hang out next week.